not a drill. Wayfair Spring Cyber Week is here. Right now, get up to 80% off everything home at Wayfair. Plus amazing flash deals. Now is the time to score Cyber Week size deals on all your springtime essentials, like outdoor furniture, storage and organization, and patio picks. Plus, get fast and free shipping on everything right to your door. Shop Wayfair's Spring Cyber Week now through March 23rd and save up to 80% off everything home.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
Mission Log Prodigy, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. Episode 39, Ouroboros, Part 1.
Welcome into another episode of Mission Log Prodigy, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. I'm Marina Kravchuk.
And I am Charlene Schmidt. Just like our flagship Mission Log podcast, each week here on Mission Log Prodigy, we discuss each and every episode of this animated series, we discover what makes each of them special, and we see if there's any morals, meanings, or messages that we've learned.
This week, we start our coverage of the Season 2 finale with Ouroboros Part 1. Please remember that Mission Log Prodigy is an in-depth review podcast, so if you have not seen this episode yet, you may want to put us on pause, watch it, and then come back to hear us talk all about it.
That's right. Mission Log Prodigy is produced for YouTube and as a regular podcast, so be sure to engage the like and the share buttons, subscribe to the Roddenberry Entertainment YouTube channel if you're watching us, and if you're listening to us, hey, a rating and a review would go a long way on whatever podcatcher of your choosing that you use. We'd really appreciate that. You can also follow Mission Log Prodigy on X, formerly known as Twitter, at ML_Prodigy, and on Instagram at Mission Log Prodigy. One word. Keep up with all of our latest news and updates there.
So let's remind everybody why our podcast is so unique. We want to hear from cadets, the younger Prodigy fans out there, who would like to share their thoughts on the show. Right now, we would like to hear what our cadets thought about both parts of the Season 2 finale, Ouroboros. So please record a voice message and tell us the following. What is your first name and age? Did you like the episode? What was your favorite part? And what did you learn? Then send your file to missionlog-prodigy@roddenberry.com, and please make sure it reaches our inbox no later than November 16th.
We've got one more thing to tell you before we jump into this week's episode, and that is, of course, to tell you about the giveaway we've got going on, where you can win some sweet Prodigy merch, maybe something like all of the Prodigy novels, paperback, but in a nice set. Ooh, love it. That's just one of the prizes that you could win. So head over to the link in the description of this episode for the link to enter. And speaking of which, you're going to want to stay tuned to the end of this video because we'll be giving you a secret code that you will find only here in this episode. So with all of those things said now, let's kick off this show by answering some of the questions that we ask our cadets. And so, Marina, did you like the episode?
Absolutely. I mean, we actually reached the end. And it's incredibly satisfying to see how far along our crew has come, both the kids and the adults, how the storylines are getting resolved, how quite literally the tapestry of time and space gets made whole again.
Tapestry. I see what you did there. Nice. Yeah, well said. I mean, I loved it too. It all comes down to this, and it takes everyone's efforts to pull it off. And we had so many great moments, whether it was Murph slingshotting himself against a dreadnought, or Rock and Zero and Wesley finding the proverbial needle in the timeline haystack. I mean, everybody plays a part, and everybody's giving their all. So yeah, this is good stuff. How about your favorite part?
I had a couple. I mean, it's kind of hard to choose at this point. As complicated as it was, I mean, it was a pretty tricky moment. I love the reveal that the issue we're dealing with is a bootstrap paradox, and I'll explain later what that is. So, science. It's not Chakotay who's responsible for signing the ship. It's the kids that did it. So it's a Tiki did. I absolutely adored all the little scenes that we had between Hologram Janeway and Chakotay, which really showed and reinforced the idea, and so something that we already mentioned in the previous episode, that Hologram Janeway truly became her own entity. Inspiring and nurturing. She was programmed to be that way, but it looks like she actually evolved to understand her own existence and fear for it.
Yeah, that's got to be my favorite as well, is Hologram Janeway's thread. And despite everything else that's going on, that's what really caught my attention in this episode in particular. I mean, it's always fun to see any incarnation of Janeway at odds with Chakotay, them bickering, which, hey, I enjoy watching that. But yeah, like you said, her concern for her well-being shows how much her program has evolved. And like the EMH, she's more than a hologram now. Like, I feel like that's something we've always in the back of our minds maybe believed or felt, but this is confirmation. So I've got a whole lot more to say on that in the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what did you learn this time around?
Well, we already talked about this previously. I mean, let's face it, we're kind of getting the evolution and updates of all the lessons that have accumulated through the season. So, the development that the kids did of their moral compass, the sense of personal responsibility for bigger things. In this case, we literally came sort of to the fruition of all of this. Let's finish what we started. Mission comes first. This is basically the don't give up lesson on a macro scale. The kids are going at it. Nobody's prompting them, but they've taken their personal responsibility for the situation. They want to see the whole thing through.
They do. You went macro. I went a little more micro, where it is a repetition of a lesson that we've had previously, but again, I don't think that's a bad thing. Sometimes repetition is good for a good lesson. And this is all coming from everyone's smaller efforts contributing to the bigger mission, sort of like an ascension. So the small victories build the big one. That's what I got out of it. So thank you, Marina, for your answers to this week's questions. And now it's time for this episode's recap for Ouroboros Part 1, written by Kevin Hageman, Dan Hageman, and Aaron J. Waltke, directed by Sean Bishop. Ascensia, furious that her people have turned on her, launches her invasion. She opens a series of rifts that target several key Federation locations. Opening this many rifts at once might tear the fabric of space-time, but Ascensia doesn't care. If she's going to lose, she will take down as much as she can with her. Voyager detects the appearance of the rifts, and Wesley couldn't be happier. They needed Ascensia to do this so they can send the Protostar back to Tars Lamora and fix the timeline. Rock understands what they must do. They can consolidate the energy from the rifts to create a wormhole, but with so many rifts come so many variables. Finding the exact space-time coordinates might as well be like looking for a needle in a haystack, but it's this or the Loom feast on their timeline. So everybody gets to work. Chakotay and the Protostar crew beam aboard their ship, where they will make sure it is exactly as it was found on Tars Lamora. They will also help Wesley find their needle in a haystack. Gwyn and Dal, complete with old-style comm badge, will lead an away team to Ascensia's research tower, so they can manually enter the commands to create the wormhole. And meanwhile, Voyager will hold the line against Ascensia's attack. Even though this isn't our crew's first rodeo with time travel, they face a new challenge, which is traversing time and space. The slightest miscalculation could lead to failure, and it's enough to give even Wesley a headache. Yeah, dude, welcome to the club. They aren't even sure of the date when the Protostar crashed on Tars Lamora, which is just one of the many unexpected variables they're dealing with. Grrr. Voyager's offensive starts off well, and an invigorated Janeway could hold off Ascensia's invasion all day. But unfortunately, the ship's number of quantum torpedoes is a little more finite in supply. They don't have enough to tackle all of Ascensia's ships. On Solum, Dal and the away team begin the long and arduous climb to the transmitter at the top of Ascensia's research tower. Midway, they're intercepted by Vanikot enemy forces, but Iltheron covers for Dal and Gwyn as they resume the climb. Jacob, already tired, gets a lift from Murph. On the Protostar, Chakotay wants to know why hologram Janeway has been testy with him all day. She's worried about losing all of the memories and experiences she's gained. Her program is too big to make a copy, but Chakotay promises they will find a way. They always do. Back to Roktok, Zero, Majel, and Wesley. They've made a timeline of the important Protostar events that have led up to now, but they have not come closer to finding a correlation that will give them the coordinates they need. That is, until Zero spots a wormhole that has no connection to the Protostar at all, and Rock wonders if it wasn't Chakotay who sent the Protostar back to Tars Lamora, but all of them? What if the wormhole they made is the reason why all the others exist? It's Temporal Mechanics 101. As long as the big events happen as they should, the small things don't matter, Wesley says. Therefore, Majel surmises, they don't need to know the date the Protostar crashed on Tars Lamora. All the wormholes connect past and future, and at the end of the road has always been Tars Lamora. To confirm this hypothesis, Wesley orders the computer to cross-reference all the wormholes with the Protostar's quantum signature with their current space-time coordinates. And lo, the resulting image shows a common thread. Flying the Protostar will stitch them all together, like a needle. They figured it out. Zero reports the good news to Jankum, who wishes he could appreciate it at the moment, but he and the away team are recovering from the arduous climb to the top of the tower. But just as Dal and Gwyn make their way to the console where they can input the calculations, Ascensia fires a weapon that zaps power to the console. They can create the wormhole with a manual override, but that requires even more climbing to the very, very top to the transceiver itself. Gwyn volunteers to handle Ascensia so Dal and the others can complete the override. After all, she has something of Gwyn's, her heirloom. Gwyn summons it for the inevitable fight that's about to happen, but with no success. Instead, she grabs a metal bar nearby for protection, and the conflict ensues. Time is running out on all fronts. Voyager can't hold the line much longer, and the window for creating the wormhole is shrinking. Dal and Jankum input the coordinates into the transceiver, but it doesn't activate due to a loose cable. Just then, a dreadnought catches up with them. Murph takes on that challenge while Dal makes yet another climb so he can connect the transceiver's cable, intentionally forgetting about all the temporal energy around him that could scramble him in a second. The higher he climbs, the greater the wind, and the more fatigued he gets. Back to Ascensia, who doesn't understand why Gwyn won't just die already. Gwyn's answer, she won't give up on Solum or her people. But Ascensia has other plans. She has seen Solum fall in multiple universes, so she will conquer this one and bend it to her will. She nearly plunges the heirloom into Gwyn's chest, but Gwyn holds her off with what remaining strength she has. Meanwhile, Dal uses what remaining strength he has to successfully connect the transceiver's cable, and the energy from the activation knocks him out. Thankfully, Murph breaks his free fall and returns him to safety. One by one, the wormholes Ascensia created begin to disappear, and her ship blows up. It's over. Ascensia tries one more time to off Gwyn, but Iltheron, as well as young Ascensia and several more Vaunakot, have caught up to them. Together, their energies help Gwyn overcome Ascensia and return her heirloom to her. Ascensia collapses in defeat as the Vaunakot look to the sky and see one brilliant blue wormhole glowing in the sky. Isn't she a sight? Yes, she is, Dal says, but he's not talking about the wormhole. He's only got eyes for Gwyn. With this part of the mission accomplished, the Protostar can set a course for destiny? Maybe? A subspace message comes through the wormhole, and who might be calling? Yes, our good friends the Loom, and they are early for a dinner date with our timeline. And that's where we'll leave off until next week for the conclusion of Ouroboros.
Ooh.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
You know, as physically exhausted as our kids get in this episode, sometimes these recaps are exhausting for my voice.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, there is, as usual, there is a lot going on.
So much, yes. And as usual, we've got a lot of observations, and I have an observation at the top of the episode, like I do. And it's about the technobabble. We've gotten very technobabble heavy here, and I don't know how else you would possibly do it. Like, you have to get this far. We talked about the graduation of this show, starting from nothing and then really working its way up. Well, we're pretty hardcore now. And I did appreciate the later recap of events leading up to the paradox we're in, as Wesley, Rock, and Majel calculate a way to get to Protostar back, because it is a lot.
Yeah.
So that summary is very helpful.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, even with all the heavy-duty terminology, I love the fact that everything they were laying out, the writers were laying out everything very logically, sort of trying to, at the best, to kind of explain, like, well, this happened, so this can happen or cannot happen. And, you know, I love the fact that, again, Rock proves to be the most science-savvy. She's, again, the first person who catches on to what Wesley's trying to do. And ironically, it's not Majel, who's, you know, a Balkan, you would think, all science. No, she actually serves as a sort of a clarifying sidekick. You know, you remember that scene where she says, like, oh, so we do this to do this, and Rock, who just spouted all this, you know, terminology and then concept, she's like, yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, she's reaching Wesley levels of comprehension. It's really hard to spout all that back.
I got a great kick when we got Janeway say red alert because frankly, nobody else just does it the way she does. Just red alert. It was just classic. Like, absolutely. It's not an observation. It's more like just a statement of
Favorite. Well, yeah. I mean, Trek captains have their catchphrase, right? When it's time to go to warp. And I like to think that there's certain ways, trademark ways of saying red alert. Janeway's got hers. Riker is maybe another. It's very distinct. Mm-hmm. And so that also is definitely a thing. I love that you mentioned that. One thing that I got a kick out of myself was Rock basically did a love you, bye. Like, have you ever done that especially with friends where it's kind of embarrassing where like, it just so automatically comes out of you and you don't mean to say love you, but it's like, well, but I do. I love you. I love you all. It was very cute.
I found it very clever that we see Gwen's time compensator act up again. Sort of, we have whole stretches when nothing goes on, which is almost like, oh my God, they're in constant mortal peril. And, in some episodes, the gizmo is kind of like, yeah, it's just there. And in others, like, all of a sudden, it's like, oh yeah, don't forget, Gwen is technically between the phases. But in this case, because we are again sort of in a situation where time travel shenanigans are about to happen, it's a good point, or sort of like, well, remember, we still have that big problem. Which incidentally, now that we're talking about all these wormholes, at some point I was like, do I need to actually sit down and create some sort of like a little sketch for myself to understand? But even Wesley admits this whole wormhole business is giving him a headache, which is again a classic statement.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot for anybody. And I've got to admit, there's some things that I'm still a little confused on that you're going to help me clarify. You're going to be my Majel. So appreciate that.
I'll try.
Yeah. So at Starfleet Academy, we caught a glimpse of this blue alien with a brick-like face. Have we seen this species before?
I don't think so. Okay. I saw that observation on the list. And I was racking my brain. I went through Memory Alpha just to see if something will pop up. And nothing. So, dear listeners, if you know who that might be, or is that like a brand new thing that we now have that might appear in the future, perhaps even in live action, I'd love to know.
Right. Yeah, same. I would like to know more about this race. They look cool. I did notice, of course, that Janeway got a second wind after hopping back in the saddle last week. She's just like, I could do this all day. Just look at her. Got a groove back.
It's kind of coming out of that previous episode where, like the kid's like, well, we can't stop now. So yeah, she gets her second sort of like, nobody's coming to help us. Voyager is the only last defense, and we are going to hold the line. So she's got Voyager, and she's not afraid to use it. So, speaking of classic moments, that moment where Ascensia, realizes that, Janeway has arrived and blowing up her ship, and she just goes, ugh, Janeway. And I kid you not, I had immediately a sort of a flashback to U-Matrix Zero, where Janeway shows up and knocks out one of the Borg with a bat'let. And the Borg Queen who's observing this scene goes, Janeway. She doesn't have the sound, but I think it's kind of implied.
Pretty
but
close.
Goes, like,
Janeway. Janeway's a problem for certain people. The Borg Queen being one of them. Captain Braxton being another one.
That's right. Yes.
Anytime the time cops have to fix something involving her, they are just groaning so hard. And as much as she hates time travel, she really does get involved with a lot of time travel shenanigans. Yeah. So, yeah. We have yet more unexpected variables. Love that came back as a thing. Yes. We got to make that a thing.
Very much so. Only in this case, it's too many of them. And it's an excellent scene where it's like, before you could think like, oh yeah, those got thrown in and we need things better out of a bad situation. In this case, like, we have a very clear outline, just what an impossible task it is to return Protostar to our Salmora, because we're talking both, as you already mentioned, time and space. And I love that Wesley says like there's something that we're not seeing, which kind of parallels the moment when he's sure that he has everything figured out in Devour All Things, and he realizes that he's missing the seventh ingredient, Majel. So in this case, we're missing something.
So what you're saying is they needed to go to the mess hall and make an omelet And then
Or more
that would
like,
have helped them solve their problem.
yeah, or more like maybe have like a smorgasbord, because let's face it, at this point, to solve the problem, literally everybody has to be involved, and they are.
This is true. Okay, so buffet in the mess hall. Got it. It was lovely seeing Iltheron covering for Gwyn and looking out for her. This is the father that she always needed. It's so nice to see it.
I find it, almost flabbergasting just how much I absolutely adore Iltheron. I mean, you think back to the Diviner, what a despicable character this was. And then just completely, I mean, this is like a 180-degree turn, and Iltheron is just the best. I mean, he's never been a dad, and yet he is the dad. So,
absolutely.
This was lovely.
Yeah, very nice to see it. Very great payoff as far as that goes, from where we started to how it's going. Really good. Hologram Janeway. We mentioned her at the top of the show. Yeah. She has, I guess, leveled up like the EMH. Yeah?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, that scene where she's criticizing Chakotay, he's like, oh, you're using your old Makee tricks. That's not going to help you. Hold on. And that's interesting. She sounds pretty rough. And then, of course, you get to that point where they're literally bickering like an old married couple. And Chakotay's like, you've been on me the whole day. What's going on? And I thought the moment where it's like, I mean, she's not hiding her issues for too long. It's very touching, actually. Yeah. Like, what happens to me? Like, I'm a person, basically. And of course, Chakotay is being Chakotay, which kind of harkens to pretty much everything that we have seen in Voyager. But we'll find a way. We always do. So in this case, at that point, when I watched it the first time, remembering what happened in season 1, yes, her program is far too big to be copied. What is the solution? So that's a question mark for the next part.
That's right. Stay tuned till part 2. Yeah. I did appreciate you calling them the old married couple. I mean, they had 10 years together.
Right?
So at this point, they've got a long-term relationship of some sort.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then, of course, we get to the point, going back to our Wonder Kids, where Rock realizes that the time paradox that we've been involved for the whole season is actually a version of Bootstrap paradox, which, to quote Wikipedia, that's when future events influence the past and cause themselves. So this is something that's very hard to wrap your brain around, but we have seen versions of this in other Star Trek. Namely, the best example is when we have the engineer that supposedly invents the transparent aluminum. He's provided with the invention by visitors from the future. So it's the same thing. It's that events from the future cause the past events. Let me rephrase it. The future events influence the past and cause themselves to occur. I'm amazed that something this complicated has been included. I mean, it's complicated enough for any regular Star Trek production. In this case, we are trying to introduce a lot of science to the younger generation. This is pretty heavy-duty stuff. I am honestly amazed.
It is.
I had to sit down and do a little bit of research to kind of understand what's going on.
I'm so glad you did.
I'm wondering if I should just literally draw myself like little graph with arrows.
Oh my gosh. In a way, I know you've been very busy and I understand why you didn't, but at the same time, I kind of wish you did, because then you could have shared it with Dr. Aaron and gotten feedback, and that would have been great. But bootstrap paradox, okay, is this a term we have heard before in Star Trek?
I don't think it was used per se, but again, we see versions of it where it's something happening again. Something that appears out of nowhere in the past, basically, such as the invention of the transparent aluminum, it just appears.
Right.
So it's wonderful. And again, it's Rock who realizes that that's what's going on. Not even Wesley, who's sort of like, yes, of course, after she mentions it. And it is a very clever thing. I do wonder if there were any inklings that that's what's going on when the first season was being written, or was that something that was just beautifully sort of like, light bulb, that we can work it through and make this a cycle. That's a question for the creators, and hopefully we'll get a chance to ask them.
Absolutely. Yes. So I was a little perplexed. I'm still wrapping my head around this big concept because the small changes to time don't matter as long as the big ones still occur, according to Wesley. And I can run with that to a point, but how many times have we seen the little differences making a difference? So it seems like sometimes they do and sometimes they don't.
Well, I think the key thing here, at least the way I read it, the key word in what Wesley was saying is the word still. So if the key events still occur, small changes would not carry as much weight and would not cause catastrophic holes in space-time. So, if you think about it, we saw the moment where supposedly Chakotay is sending the ship sometime into the past. Who knows? If he still managed to send it and it landed at Taras Lamora, then the fact that Dal dropped the phaser rifle wouldn't have mattered. But in this case, it did. It was a little event that changed everything. So it's kind of, this whole timey-wimey situation. It may be just temporal mechanics 101, supposedly just, the
Maybe I should read it.
Yeah. But I'd say to ensure that such eventuality actually occurs, I think it's best left to travelers, people who actually know what's going on.
Honestly, this is their specialty. They should be handling this. Well, speaking of travelers, Wesley does seem to have some of his mental strength and vigor back, even if his traveler powers aren't necessarily. His energy's definitely up.
It was disconcerting to see him very subdued in the last episode.
Yes.
But it's kind of unnerving still to see him almost back to his sort of mad scientist self. Getting excited at seeing Ascensia activate all this horrible weaponry in all its might.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to hand it to Wesley, and we talked about it already. He put himself through actual torture to ensure that weaponry gets invented and built, and is now basically treading a very thin line, risking all of Federation being annihilated just to correct the time paradox via using that weaponry. So this is very heavy-duty stuff happening.
Big time. Well, here's a very light thing. We got a 47 reference.
Yes.
Just putting that out there.
And I especially like the fact that we get a tiny little tie into things that already mentioned before. It's specifically 47 milli Cochranes. And the Cochranes actually a unit of measure of the subspace distortion. So warp creation, that sort of thing. That is, of course, named after Zefram Cochrane, the creator of the warp engine.
Yeah.
So, this is fun.
So many technical terms in this one. Wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, it occurred to me in this episode that Gwen and her heirloom, she's largely not had it for the majority of the season. I was reminded in this episode, oh yeah, she has this heirloom usually, but it made me wonder, were there occasions during the season where maybe that would have been useful? I wonder. Any thoughts?
I was thinking about this, and two things that kind of crossed my mind. One, it never actually crossed my mind to think poor Gwen, in this situation, I wish she had her heirloom. Somehow it never did. And the second thing that popped into my head, that this kind of becomes almost a reference to one of the things that the meaningful things that happened in previously, where if you lose something of yourself, that does not mean that you still cannot do something. I mean, look at all these horrible situations that the crew found themselves in, and every single time if Gwen was involved, she handled it just fine without the heirloom. So even though she lost a part of what could be considered, every Yvonne card has an heirloom, she didn't have it, and yet, whichever situation she was in, she handled it without it.
Yeah. Very interesting stuff. With all of the very physical danger that our crew members are in, this episode did have me wondering if we were going to lose someone, because last season we lost hologram Janeway. It's not out of the realm of possibility. So, there were a couple of scary moments here.
I agree. I mean, for a moment, I was kind of seriously worried about Merv. I mean, I'm glad they didn't drag this out, or Merv disappeared and is he alive? Is he there? No, it's no, it's Merv. Yay. But it is very true, considering that we kind of reached the ultimate point of, to say that this is a dangerous situation is kind of to say nothing.
Understatement, yeah.
Yeah, what's going to happen? Are we going to lose somebody? Well, I would imagine non-hologram Janeway, because there's got to be a solution. To lose her twice would be a bit much.
Yeah, we can't do that again. Oh my gosh, that was such a gut punch in season 1. No, no, no. But you brought up Murph. Murph really came through on a couple of things for us in this episode. The slingshot in particular was a very cool move.
That was cool. Yeah.
That was fun. And speaking of coming through, I knew young Ascensia would somehow. She was my sleeper character, and she did show up. Not in a major way, but she did. It's really touching that she and Iltheron and the Vaunakot came together and gave Gwyn the strength to defeat Ascensia. Very cool. Very cool. Nice show of support.
It's yet another twist on working as a team. And then, I mean, in this case, it's like it's an entire culture basically standing together.
Yeah, for real. That's a major turning point. Ascensia is so defeated at that point. She can't resist them all. So, love that. I love the moment where Jankum says, "Ain't she a sight?" and is referring to the wormhole, which, hey, is very pretty. And Dal is just looking for Gwyn, making sure she's all right. And he's like, yeah, she's so pretty.
Very sweet. You know, I like this relationship. I want to see her, like, hopefully it goes on, and who knows, maybe we'll get season 3 and we'll see what comes out of it.
Yeah, and it's young love. It's cute. You know, I dare I say it's puppy love, just because they have so much more growing yet to do as they mature and get older. But who knows? They might be in it to win it. I'd be happy to cheer that on. Well, how about we move over to the discussion now? There are a couple of themes. Some of them are repetitive, others maybe not as much. So how about, let's start off with one of the things that Gwyn said, quote, "Revenge only brings pointless suffering." And this is, of course, all about why Ascensia has to lose. And
absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of this is the fact that, you know what? One person is a dictatorship. She's the only one who supports her vision at this point. Somewhere along the way, she lost everybody but herself.
Exactly. And it's ironic that moment where Ascensia is fighting, the end of the fight where Gwyn is empowered by the rest of the Vaunakot, and Ascensia starts quoting the saying, you know, there is no barrier we cannot overcome for we are Vaunakot, when she herself has become the ultimate egocentrist. You know, in just that pursuit of vengeance, there is no we in her version of Solon. She literally wants to conquer everyone, and it will be the way she feels things should be. And so when she's joined with this joined psychic will through Gwyn, the actual Vaunakot multitude, she is, for all intents and purposes, extinguished. Literally. I mean, you can see this whole psychic light just go out. That was a spectacular moment.
Falls to the ground and everything, and her wannabe dictator aspirations are gone. And you know what? That's a great symbolic lesson that the truth eventually does come out. You know, it's hard to believe it sometimes in our own lives, but it does happen. And love overtakes hate. Working together is better than one person supremely ruling all. And these are constant, never-ending lessons that we as people must learn, and therefore it's okay that it bears constant repeating, because we need to be reminded. We have short attention spans and horrible memories, and we need to remember why these are things worth fighting for.
Absolutely.
And again, big victory achieved by smaller victories. This is a theme that is repeating, and we're calling back from Ascension here, where everybody contributes according to their gifts. But I feel like even though Ascension was so intense, here everybody really is just used to their max. Maybe because physically they get so worn out is why I'm thinking that. But even so, you're going where you're needed. You are doing whatever needs to be done. You know, Gwyn takes on Ascensia. Murph is not just security, in my opinion. He's also safety.
Yeah.
Making sure that folks aren't falling down. And Dal is doing whatever it takes to complete the mission. If that requires climbing up to the very top of a very unstable and electric-charged tower, he's going to do that. And then even Iltheron is persuading the Vaunakot to reject Ascensia's vision for Solemn. He's contributing in what might seem like a small way, but not small at all because of the effect it has.
Yeah. And it's the important thing to point out is that it's not like there is somebody, like, Janeway being the admiral, who is, throwing orders, you do
Yeah.
this, you do that. Everybody is contributing without prompting. I mean, obviously there's probably, some kind of coordination between all the different parties, but everybody has a unified goal to finish this mission, and everybody, really puts their weight behind it.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Nobody is necessarily telling anybody else what to do. It's just, oh, this needs to be done. Well, okay, we're going to take care of it. We'll find a way. All right. And we mentioned, last point of discussion here, hologram Janeway.
Yeah.
Let's really get into this now, because are we saying that she's sentient?
Oh, gosh. Now, that's a discussion that's, we've already been mentioned previously. I mean, certainly, is EMH sentient? I mean, he is considered to be sentient, right now, at least. So, it seems to, like, every single little indicator that we've seen so far, her playing with Brabble as a dog, and, well, kind of like a dog. All this bickering scenes with Chakotay, all the little mentions, especially the latest part of the season, certainly seems to indicate that she's no longer just, well, I wouldn't call it basic, but certainly more than just a complicated hologram. And I wish we had more moments like that. I mean, she was kind of largely sidelined through most of the second season because we had so many other characters to work through.
True.
But yeah, gosh, I mean, do we just love her and that's why we want her to consider to be sentient? That's a
maybe. Hey, look, yeah, we do love her, and it is an incarnation of Janeway.
I still think that there's got to be more than that. I mean, that impassioned moment where she says, all my memories. What about me? I don't want to, it's all going to be gone once I go into the past with Protostar.
Yeah, so, it shows that she values these things. She values her existence, and so I think, like the EMH, she has grown beyond her original programming and has self-awareness.
Yeah, and like Data. If you remember in the episode where he has to prove that, there are things that matter to him, it's kind of the same way. I mean, her experiences and her memories matter to her.
Yeah. Well, and as you mentioned, this has been explored in Star Trek before, and including with the EMH, and he certainly knows that he is a sentient life form, and I would love some follow-up in the future. If we do get more Prodigy, I do hope that they feature hologram Janeway on her own journey of this. More exploration of IDIC hologram style.
Yeah.
Please. That story's far from over.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, shall we wrap it up? Okay. Well, for as many threads as this episode did tie up, we're still not done yet. We've got one more episode to go, and we have those pesky loom for starters, but we also still have to get the Protostar back to Tars Lamora. So, one more part of this season, and we're in for another jam-packed episode. We know that. It's the conclusion. But, pacing-wise, for all that has happened this season, I don't feel like we're rushing the ending. Even though a whole bunch happens here and a whole bunch is going to happen in the next episode, I appreciate that they didn't try to underpace previous episodes to make it a massive explosive finish. No, they didn't have to. They did fantastic. I'm very excited.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as you said, only one episode left, and we have, the whole Loom invasion looming. Given the quality of storytelling this season, I expect a bang of an ending. I can't wait to see the resolution. So, are all questions going to be answered? And, I do wonder where will our crew find themselves when all is said and done. So for that, join us next week.
Right. We still got one more of these babies to go, plus some fun stuff to follow. But for right now, we've reached the end of our show. With the exception of one thing, we have one more thing to do, and that is to give you the special code that you can use to enter our giveaway. And you're going to find this code only here. And the code is Mango Juice, calling back to Wesley Crusher's favorite drink. MANGOJUICE. To enter, go to the link provided in the description of the episode or look for it on our social media channels.
thank you everyone for joining us here on Mission Luck Prodigy. If you enjoyed our show, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our Mission Luck Prodigy playlist on the Roddenberry Entertainment YouTube channel, or find us on your podcast catcher of choice. Mission Luck Prodigy is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment, production and technical direction by Earl Green. Our website and your opportunity to comment and connect with us is missionlockpodcast.com. And if you'd like to support Mission Log directly, you can do so at patreon.com/missionlog.
So next week, we will finish our episode coverage with Ouroboros Part 2 and Cadets. Don't forget to watch both parts of the finale. Send us your thoughts no later than Saturday, November 16th. We can't wait to hear what you have to say, but for now, live logs and proper, and go fast!
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.